So you're new to mushroom hunting and you're looking for chicken of the woods. Well, we're going to talk all about it in this video. So if you're interested, stick around. Okay, check that bad boy out right there. How awesome is that? That's a wonderful flush. It's popping out all over the place here. But notice, I mean, check out the rot on this tree. I mean, the tree's got it. Oh, there's some chicken right there. The tree has got a tremendous lean to it. The whole base of the tree is just decomposing. And, you know, this is one of the things you're going to want to look for when you're looking for chicken of the woods. You're going to look for an oak tree that's got just tons of damage. Let's get on this side and take a peek. Look, there's more right there. Good gravy. But check out the damage. I mean, that's the big takeaway from here. If you're looking for chicken of the woods, this mushroom acts as a saprophytic mushroom primarily. I mean, can you find it acting as a parasite? Absolutely. You absolutely can find it on trees that have no damage. However, it's few and far between. Primarily what you're looking for when you're going into the woods are these oak trees that have got just tons of damage. And that's typically where I seem to find it most of the time. So we have the damage on the tree. You can see the tree's got a huge lean on it, right? But also notice these other big trees that are around. Why are there so many big trees? Well, the reality is I am walking. If you look right on up, I mean, it's just one big tree after another. I'm walking a property line. And you're going to find the larger trees on the property lines. And that's just another little secret that I use, because these older trees, they've been here much longer. Obviously, they're going to be decomposing like this one is. And it just seems to help me be more successful when I'm looking for mushrooms. Even hen of the woods. This would be a great spot to come look for hen of the woods, just because of all the decomposing, you know, wood rot that we have going on right through here. You would think a hen of the woods would love this type of environment. It's saprophytic as well. So definitely want to key in on the rot. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be an oak tree. I mean, it could be a cherry tree. It could even be a conifer for that matter. However, I would caution you on eating them off of conifers, or let's say cherry trees, trees that bloom. And people have done it. Don't get me wrong. I know plenty of people who have eaten chicken in the woods right off a cherry tree, had no problem. Even off of conifers, and have had no problem. However, you better know what you're doing, especially when it comes to the conifers, because you can't eat all of it. And there's only certain parts you can eat, and it starts to get technical. And if you're new to mushroom hunting, if you'll just stick to the oak trees, it's going to be safe. It's going to be safe for you to consume, and that way we won't have any issues. I just hone in on the big trees and try to look for big stumps and logs and down branches, things of that nature. Now, you're not going to typically find it on anything really small. I would say probably a 6-inch caliper or larger would probably do the trick. Most of the time it's pretty big, but doesn't necessarily just have to be a big tree. Now, when it comes to chicken of the woods and lookalikes and things of that nature, there's very few, but you have to keep all of the key identifying factors. I mean, this is a nice smooth top. Obviously the color, you can't miss the color, you know, from orange. Sometimes they're a little pink or whatever, but most of the time it's an orange color. It can be lighter in color. It can be a fiery red orange as well. Then normally, if it's a sulfurous, it's going to have that yellow, and that's going to be one of the key identifying factors. So if I pull off just a little bit, let's just do this so you can see it. That's nice and yellow. Looks like it's got a little bug damage there, but yellow right there, you certainly can see. It's a polypore mushroom. That means there's no gills. There's millions of little pores gathered around through there. I mean, that's all that is a pore. No gills. No gills at all. Okay, so that's going to be something you're going to look for. Smooth on the top, yellow bottom for the Latipore sulphureus. Okay, so there's that. You want to keep that in mind when you're, just don't take the color and go, okay, well, I found an orange mushroom, that's got to be it. No, that's not. That's part of the puzzle. That's just not the whole puzzle. Also, when you tear it, let's go ahead and just tear this. If I can, you can see. Hold on a minute. This may not be a big enough piece. It's so moist. Look at this. It's kind of, kind of stringy, but not chewy when you eat it. It definitely has the consistency of a chicken breast type thing. So that's something you want to look at as well. If the mushroom itself that you find is real hard or something like that, then maybe you don't have chicken. I don't know. But you definitely could take a piece and tear it apart and, see if that would do it for you. See if that's got the consistency of a chicken breast is probably a really good way of putting it. So what time of year should you be looking for this mushroom? Well, the reality is it is a spring, summer, fall mushroom. Here we are in fall, and that's a beautiful flush right there, but I found them just as pretty in spring. So the other thing is you want to get out after the rains. Typically you want to wait about 3 days, maybe 4, after some good rain has happened, and start looking for those larger trees with the damage. And you should be pretty successful. It's really prevalent. Look at this thing. You can see it from 100 yards away. It's just screaming, look at me, So anyway, get out there, start looking for this thing. You will find it, but you got to put some time in. And don't get frustrated. Just keep on looking. It'll happen for you. And then the next thing you know, once you kind of get in the groove, you'll be finding it all the time. When it's acting as a saprophytic mushroom, pay close attention to your location because it will flush again the next year. That's been my experience. Now, when it is acting as a parasite, I typically don't find it year after year. In fact, I can think of one particular tree. I have been checking this tree now for 6 consecutive years. It flushed out one time, and for 6 years, I've been checking it, and it has never flushed again to my knowledge. So keep that in mind. Once you see the damage, you find the chicken of the woods, make note of your location, and then come back the following year and, continue to check on it, and it'll flush out again for you, which is pretty cool. Also, the first time you find this mushroom, I wouldn't eat any. And if you do choose to do that, only eat a little bit. This is important because even though it's an edible mushroom, some people's systems just don't tolerate it well for whatever reason. So, start slow. Always start slow when it comes to these wild mushrooms. Take your time. You'll find another flush. It's not going to be the only flush you'll find. So that's why I caution you to go ahead and take some pictures, pull it off, touch it, feel it, do the whole 9 yards there. Give it a little sniff test, see what it smells like. But don't consume it the first time you find it, Do your homework, do your due diligence, take it back. And even though it's pretty easy to identify, that's the reality. It really is. But it's a good habit to be nice and slow when it comes to wild mushrooms. Take your time. Be 100% positive of what you're harvesting and what you're consuming. So, with that said, just take your time. That's the main point. Also, please remember, cook it. I can't believe I'm having to say this. Cook it. You gotta cook it. I know, we've all had mushrooms before at salad bars and things of that nature. This ain't it. Nah, you don't want to do that. Always cook wild mushrooms. Never consume them raw. This will make you sick if you consume it raw. It's got a lot of chitin in it. And chitin is what basically makes up the cell walls of the mushroom, okay? And it is extremely tough. You're really going to eat about this much, the outside margins. You're going to hear, if you watch any of my videos, you're going to hear me talk about the outside margins. This is what we're talking about. You're eating about that much because from this point back is pure chitiny. And so, and I've seen videos where people take the whole thing and slice it and consume the whole thing. It is really rough on your system to try to digest this back part. I mean, very tough. You can, as I'm shaking it, you can see it. I mean, it just doesn't move very well. Out here, very bendy, very pliable, you know, much softer, better for your system. So you're only going to consume the outside margins. Now, if you're interested in cooking this mushroom, I have got plenty of videos on, you know, where I go out and find it, clean it, and cook it, and do all that. I show you the whole process. So anyway, check those out. I'll leave a link somewhere around here. It'll either be in the description or popping out about right now or something like that. So we're only going to cut the outside margins here. So I'm just going to take my knife and I'll show you here. We're just going to come around. We're going to leave some on the tree. Look, that's what I'm talking about. When I say outside margins, about an inch, inch and a half, maybe 2 inches, somewhere in there. We're going to leave the rest because the rest of this is extremely chitiny. Also, when you cut this mushroom and you're trying to identify it, look how smooth the inside is. Look how smooth this is, really. And even the pore side. And the pores, another thing, you want to make sure these pores are nice and tight. They're not open. You have a really hard time seeing the pores right now because they're so tight, you know. If you find them and you can actually see the pores are open, it doesn't taste quite as good. And it means the mushroom's a lot older. So anyway, this is what we're doing. This is all I'm going to harvest. Just that much, just the outside edges, that's all. And I'm probably not going to take all of this, just simply because it's a ton of mushroom. It's way too much for me and my wife to eat, so this will do it. I might get a few more. I'll tell you what, let's get these right here. And that's another thing too, when it comes to harvesting all these wild mushrooms, you definitely don't want to over harvest. I mean, you gotta let the mushroom go ahead and drop its spores from the underside and reproduce, continue to do its job. So I don't want to just take it all off the tree, although I've done that from time to time. I just try not to do it all the time. Also, you're gonna want to watch for gnats. If you find a flush that has a ton of gnats flying around, whatnot, these gnats or flies or whatever you want to call them will actually bore holes into the chicken of the woods, lay their eggs, and then the larvae will eat on it. So, that's how the larvae, lives. I mean, it just consumes the mushroom. Well, if you got lots of flies and you cut this and you bring it to the house, you're going to have basically worms on the inside, and you don't want that. So, I try to stay away from it if it's, got flies buzzing around. So anyway, if this one doesn't, this is nice. You can see where I clearly cut it off, left the rest. We're in good shape. Awesome. And it's kind of windy. I mean, look at this tree. It looks like it wants to fall, I don't know, now? Hey, I hope that helped, and the best of luck to you, man. I hope you find some chicken up the woods soon. Please don't forget to subscribe and slap that like button. I'll talk to you.